Welcome back everybody, my name is Tucker, and in today's video I decided to do a tier list ranking of the top duos across all 30 NBA teams. And this obviously is going to cause a lot of discussion based off not only where these teams are ranked, but also which duos I picked as the best players for each team. So let's go ahead and get started with the Orlando Magic, and I'm going to put them squarely in the C tier category. And the reason for that is just because I don't think that the two players that I picked, being Aaron Gordon and Jonathan Isaac, are star players by any means. They're both solid players. I think Isaac has a ton of upside, but this list is focusing specifically on the upcoming season, how good these players are, and it's really just about a lack of star power there, even though they are both good two-way players, which is why they're in the C spot. Next up for the Lakers, it's LeBron and AD, and they have to go in the A spot. There's no other place for them to go. Both of them could legitimately be MVP candidates this year, depending on how well LeBron recovers or how well he plays at such an advanced age, and after missing so much of last season, that kind of remains to be seen. And then Anthony Davis, there's also a scenario in which he just completely goes off. Maybe LeBron rests a little bit more during the regular season. AD is an MVP candidate as well. Two of the best players in the league. They have to be ranked in the A slot. Next up is Boston, and I'm going to put them right there in the B spot. Obviously, Kemba Walker is an all-NBA caliber player, and the other guy that I put here is Jason Tatum, who kind of had, an up and down first two seasons, kind of surprised people in terms of how quickly and how well he fit in initially in Boston in his first season. And then last season had some issues. There's been some good reports coming out of the Boston area about how well he's been working out this offseason and doing a lot more, just focusing on the three-point shot, cutting out a lot of mid-range stuff, getting to the rim more. But, well, that remains to be seen once the season actually starts. And so because he's not a true, other star player, I'm going to put the Celtics in the B category, with Kemba kind of bringing them up to that slot, and Tatum basically being right there. Next, Golden State Warriors, and this is the first kind of injury situation when we come into. Obviously, Clay's not going to be able to play for most of the season, at least not until probably after the All-Star break, and this is something you're going to see come into play later on with the Nets as well when I'm considering players being hurt. And so that's why the Warriors are going to go in the B tier, simply because their best two players, one of them is only going to play probably 25 or so regular season games, and then when the playoffs roll around, if it was all completely even and Clay wasn't hurt, obviously Steph and Clay would be in the A tier, and then you could make the case that just Steph and Draymond, having that as your backup duo, would maybe put them in the A slot. But the fact that Clay's not going to play until that late in the season, in my opinion, they have to be in the B tier. Next is the Oklahoma City Thunder. And for them, in my opinion, it's Chris Paul and Danilo Gallinari. And I'm going to have to put them, I think, in the C slot. And the reason for that is simply that Chris Paul, he looked like he lost a step last year. And I kind of need to see him go back to how well he played 2 years ago in Houston as opposed to last season, and see him be healthy as well for a good amount of the season to really push them up to that B tier. Gallo's a good player, 20-point per game guy last year for the Clippers, but he's another player that has struggled with injuries at times, and so I'm still kind of in a wait-and-see mode, but I could very easily see the Thunder in that B tier at some point in the season. Just going into the year, I'm not there right now. Next up, Brooklyn Nets, Kyrie and DeAndre Jordan. I'm going to put them... This is another one where it's right there between B and C. I'm not counting Kevin Durant in this simply because he's not going to play the entire season. I'm going to put them very hesitantly in the B slot. I almost put them in C just because I don't really think that DeAndre Jordan is that great of a five-man at this point in his career. But Kyrie had, in some respects, in terms of statistically and things like that, a career year last year, and if he stays healthy, could be outstanding again for the Nets this year. And I think just him being as good as he is, even with all the locker room stuff and all the chemistry issues he may have caused in Boston, pushes them into the B tier. Next up, the Bulls is Lauri Markkanen and Zach LaVine, and I'm going to put them kind of in the same spot as where the Magic were, where they just don't have a superstar kind of player with those two guys, similar to Jonathan Isaac and Aaron Gordon. I think LaVine and Markkanen are probably both better than both of those guys at this point in their careers, but they are right there in terms of maybe being in the B tier. And maybe, like I said, by midseason they will be if Markkanen and LaVine or somebody makes a huge jump. But for right now, I can't really see myself putting them above C. Next, the Miami Heat is just Jimmy Butler and Goran Dragic. And I think they're going to have to go in the C slot as well, simply because Jimmy Butler could have some injury issues. He's getting up there in age. He's still a very good player, but the fact that Dragic is the other guy does kind of bring them down. Maybe you could make the case that it's supposed to be Justice Winslow, or maybe even Bam Adebayo. I don't know. You could make your case for whoever you want the other part of that duo to be, but I just don't see that combination really pushing them up into the B tier. Next, we're going to go Houston Rockets, and I think I kind of have to put them in the A spot with James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Those are two of the top probably 15 players in the league, and Harden is certainly higher up on that list for most people. These are both guys that have won MVPs within the last couple of seasons, and just in that kind of more ball style offense with all the spacing, we know Harden's great in it. I think Westbrook's going to be really good in it as well, so they're going to go in the A slot. The Charlotte Hornets, probably the easiest selection of the list, are going to go in the A slot simply because I have in my notes here, it's Terry Rozier and question mark is the other part of that duo. Like if you look up and down the roster, there's no two-man combination that you can put together and say, yeah, these guys are anything but an E tier in this grouping. I mean, if they got Miles Bridges, maybe PJ Washington, maybe Tyler Zeller, maybe who knows, maybe Nick Batum, but in any of those situations, they're in the E spot. Next up, the Pelicans, Zion and Brandon Ingram. I'm going to put them, I'm not a huge Brandon Ingram guy. I think that he needs the ball in his hands a little bit too much as a wing player to really provide a ton for you, and I don't think he's a great playmaker to really justify having that big of a role, and that could certainly change once he gets away from, the Lakers season they had last year and doesn't play with LeBron and things like that. And I'm tempted to put them in the B slot because of Zion and because of how good I think he's going to be as a rookie, but for now, I'm going to put them in the C slot. Next up, the New York Knicks with Julius Randle and RJ Barrett are going to go in the D spot. I know that Randle had a really good season statistically last year for the Pelicans, and that should continue this year. He's going to be a really good player. RJ Barrett, we just don't really know. I mean, Summer League wasn't great, but Summer League also isn't the end-all be-all for a beginning of a player's career. So they could very easily move up into a C slot at some point in the season, but right now I'm just not sure how all that fits together, which is why they're going to go in the D spot. Next, the Sacramento Kings, and it's Buddy Hield and De'Aaron Fox. And I think I kind of have to put them in the B spot. I almost maybe talk myself into the A spot, but I can't put them above Steph and Clay, even though Clay, obviously I talked about, they would have been the A spot if it wasn't for his injury issues. But I'm going to have to go with the B spot for De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield. Hield is a really nice compliment to Fox, is someone that just shoots the lights out but can also do a good amount of stuff on the ball in terms of playmaking, and Fox is one of the best young point guards in the league, and I wouldn't be surprised to see either of them make an all-star team this year, so they're going to go in the B spot. Next up, Portland, Dame and CJ. Man, there's a lot of tough ones in this because it really just kind of depends on your criteria, and you got to stay consistent with your criteria this whole time. I think they're going to have to go in the A spot just because Dame is so good. CJ is such a nice compliment. You're getting like 55 points a game out of those two guys, and then obviously you're getting the assists as well. You're probably getting 70 points between points and assists every single game, production-wise, out of those two guys. They just complement each other so well. I think they have to go in the A slot. Next up for Phoenix, Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. This is another tough one because Ayton had a good rookie year. Devin Booker's a good player, but it's more about, do they actually lead their teams to wins? They haven't won 25 games in forever in Phoenix. But I'm going to take a bit of a leap here, and I think I'm going to put them in the B slot. I don't really like the Suns team from the top down. Like, I don't like their whole roster, but those two players, I think, complement each other well. I like the inside-out combination. So I'm going to put them tentatively in the B slot, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them go down to C at some point during the season if I revisited these. Clippers, it's pretty easy. Kawhi and PG are going to have to go in the A slot. Obviously, some injury issues could come about for that duo specifically, but there's really not much to say with them. They kind of have to go in the A slot. Utah, Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. I'm going to go, and you could make the case for any two players in the entire starting unit for the Jazz to go in their duo, and I wouldn't argue it. Like, they've got Mike Conley, they've got Donovan Mitchell, they've got Joe Ingles, they've got Bogdanovich, they've got Gobert. I'm going to go Mitchell and Gobert, and I'm going to put them in the B slot as well, simply because you're ranking their duo, you're not ranking the entire starting five, and Mitchell still has plenty of room to grow in terms of shooting efficiency, in terms of scoring efficiency, in terms of playmaking, in terms of cutting down his turnovers. And then Gobert is obviously an outstanding defensive player, an outstanding regular season player, has had some issues in the playoffs though, and I'm just not ready to put them all the way up in that A tier. San Antonio Spurs are next, and I'm kind of in the similar spot there. They've got LaMarcus Aldridge, they've got DeMar DeRozan, two really good players, but I'm not ready to put them in the A category when you're looking at when you're comparing the star duos in the A slot of LeBron and AD and James and Russ and CJ and Dame and then PG and Kawhi. I'm not ready to say that LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan are on the same level as those guys, so they're going to go, excuse me, in the B slot. Next, Minnesota, it's Karl Anthony Towns and a couple of different guys, maybe Teague, maybe Covington, maybe Wiggins. It doesn't really matter which one of those you pick, because I think regardless, they're in the C slot. And honestly, they're pretty close to being in the D slot, but I just think Towns is so good that he brings them up a little bit, and you can't really put him much lower than C, in my opinion, even though his duo, whoever it is, Covington, Wiggins, Teague, isn't all that great. I just think that he's so good that you can't put them any lower than C. Memphis is also going to go in the C slot with Jaren Jackson Jr. and John Morant, just because it's an unknown kind of thing, but I love Jaren Jackson Jr. as a two-way player. I think he's going to be an awesome player for the next 10 years for Memphis, and I'm a huge fan of John Morant transitioning to the pro game as well. So they're going to go in the C slot as well. Next up, we have Denver with Jokic and Murray. And I think Jokic is so good. I'm not 100% sold on the Jamal Murray thing. And again, like if you're just comparing them to these four teams up here, I don't think you can put, only because of Murray, I don't think you can put them in the A slot. I think they're going to have to go B. Dallas with Luka and KP, I'm actually going to put them in the C slot just because KP coming off of an injury, we don't know what that's going to be like. We've never seen these guys play together. We don't know what that dynamic is going to be like. I love Luka, you guys know that, but it's really just about KP coming off his injury. 20 games in, this could very easily be a different story, and Porzingis and Doncic could be in the B slot, but for now, they're going to go C. Next, Toronto Raptors. This is a tough one because it's Lowry, it's Siakam. I think I'm going to have to go B just because Siakam is the most improved player. He's probably going to be an all-star this coming season. Lowry should be an all-star again this coming season as well. So even though they lost Kawhi, I kind of put that duo up, with any of these other ones in this category that I'm talking about here. The Bucks have Giannis and Chris Middleton. And I think, honestly, I'm going to go A. I think I'm going to go with the A tier for them just because Giannis is so good, has a legitimate claim to being the best player in the world, just won the MVP, and Middleton is a really nice complementary player as a shooter, as a defender, as an occasional playmaker, and I think that's enough to put them in the A slot. Next, for Indiana, I've got written down, obviously, Oladipo, coming off of an injury, though, and then it's Malcolm Brogdon, it's Miles Turner. I'm going to go B. But I am concerned about the Oladipo thing a little bit just because of the injury, and then Brogdon has had some injury issues in the past. Miles Turner still is kind of waiting to make that big leap offensively, but I feel comfortable putting them in the B slot. Detroit with Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond are going to go in the C slot. Thank you. Blake obviously had a great year last year, All-NBA, struggled at the end of the season though. And then Drummond is just a good player, but not anything outstanding, just a really good rebounder and scorer in the paint. They're going to go in the C slot. Next up in the D is going to be Kevin Love and I guess Collin Sexton for the Cavs. I still think that Kevin Love can do a lot of really good things for a team when healthy, but we have to see it. He obviously missed all last year, and Collin Sexton had a good year statistically last year as a rookie, but defensively was not good at all, so they're going to go in the D slot. For me, Atlanta with Trey Young and John Collins, I'm going to go in the C slot just because they're still relatively unproven. Trey Young is still so bad defensively. Collins is not great defensively either. They've obviously got other options now with Cam Reddish and Herter, who was there last year, and DeAndre Hunter as well. But I just need to see a little bit more from them to put them any higher than C. Washington, I'm going to go D because they have Bradley Beal, which is nice. And that's about it. Who's their other guy here? They've got Hachimura, maybe. They've got Thomas Bryant, obviously John Wall, but he's probably not going to play the entire season with the torn Achilles. So, I love Bradley Beal, but I don't think that you can put them any higher than the D slot just because their other part of the duo is pretty much just a complete question mark. And then last up is Philly. And there's a couple of different ways you could go with this. So, obviously Embiid is one of them. One of the best players in the league, without question. When healthy, is just a dominant force, top 10 player. The issue is not so much the talent of the other player you're putting in here, whether it be Simmons or maybe you want to say Tobias Harris, maybe you want to say Al Horford. It's more so the fit between those two guys. I'm personally going to go with Embiid and Simmons, and I'm going to put them in the A slot, but that's a very tentative and hesitant selection for me, just because I don't know how well those guys are going to continue to fit together, but the talent level for me just puts them over the top and puts them in the A slot. So that's my tier list rankings. I know that you guys are going to have a ton of opinions on this in terms of the best duos across the league. The A slot, with the Lakers, with the Rockets, with Portland, with the Clippers, with Milwaukee, and then with Philly. And then B and C is, every time I do this, is such a difficult distinction because there's so many different ways that you can go about making the criteria for this, but I feel comfortable putting those teams where I did B and C, and then D and E were pretty much the easiest ones to come up with, in my opinion. But obviously you guys can let me know your own opinions down in the comment section below, and I look forward to doing that and to looking at what you guys have to say. If you have any other suggestions for any other tiers, any other rankings you guys would like to see me do, then obviously leave that stuff down in the comment section below, and I will absolutely take a look. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.